So, David Yates of the Daily Mirror, newsboy of the... Do you prefer Dave or newsboy, or do you answer to all possibilities?
I answer to anything, yeah.
Anyway, I'm being told we've got to rattle on with these because you've got to get to Newbury, first race at Newbury at 1:15 and the first race at Market Rasen at 1 o'clock, so we can't overrun our time. And the first two words on our issues for the week, our talking points for the week, are Sheikh Mohammed.
Yes, well, on Monday night there was a panorama programme which showed videos on her phone from Sheikh Mohammed's daughter Latifa, during which she claimed that she'd been inducted, that she was in a villa converted into a jail. This obviously has potentially very serious ramifications for British racing and in fact British sport and world sport. It comes on the back of the court case last spring when Sheikh Mohammed was found by a judge to have orchestrated the abduction of Latifa and Sheikh Mohammed's daughter Shamsa, which took place on the streets of Cambridge, and also to have intimidated Princess Aya, his ex-wife. What this really, where we're going with this, I think, is that racing and sport in general, but particularly racing, has got some uncomfortable decisions to make in the pretty near to hand. The pretty near future, hasn't it, as to the sort of people that it allows to own, breed, etc. racehorses. In Sheikh Mohammed's case, of course, this problem is complicated by the fact that he owns vast swathes of the industry. We've talked about the success of Godolphin runners in Riyadh last night. It's the Godolphin Stud and Stable Staff Awards. The UN have asked the Dubai government and Sheikh Mohammed for proof that Latifa is still alive, because these videos were made in April 2019 and then they stopped. So we really can't underestimate the potential seriousness of this for the industry. I don't blame at all the British Horse Racing Authority for not making a comment this week.
British government hasn't said much, has it?
And I think that is something that they will comment when they have more evidence to go on. But
yeah, it's going to be a balancing act, isn't it?
It is. Emirates are involved with Arsenal, the Emirates Stadium, Real Madrid. The FA Cup is sponsored by Emirates. Yeah. So there's plenty in world sport generally here to think about.
Well, let's move now to our second item. It says Wolves start Wolverhampton midweek. And this was a race that started before everybody was ready.
Yeah, this was a case at Wolverhampton on Wednesday when Hugo Palmer's Countessa went to go in and then backed out and sort of went round almost around a corner, and then was in the process of about to go back in. She was the 12th runner to be loaded when the starter let them go. Now, Hugo Palmer was I thought very good-humoured about this on Wednesday. On the one hand, he said it was a case of human error, that the starter had admitted his mistake.
And apologised profusely.
And apologised, and that he felt that compensation would be forthcoming to the owner, Salman Al Khalifa. However, he also pointed out that a not dissimilar thing had happened at Newcastle within the last month, and I think his quote to me was, this sort of thing should not be happening every month. It should be happening about once every 10 years. So obviously the journey from Newmarket to Dunstall Park was wasted. There was a potentially very serious...
Well, this was the other point he made, wasn't he? That if the horse had been a tiny bit further in when the stalls had opened, then whoever was leading the horse in could have been badly injured.
Yeah, I think that... that's absolutely right. There was a stalls handler in place, and a potentially very serious accident was avoided. I don't think that there's much wrong with the starting protocols, but in this case,
they seem to have been in a spotlight a lot. Both sides of the RSC of late, don't they?
Yes, they have indeed.
But I suppose they're a very high-profile thing when they go wrong.
They are. I think that the protocols that are in place, they clearly work, but they have to be observed, I think, more stringently. And in this case, there was a breakdown in communication.
Next is Philip Prince. Now, Philip Prince has been handed a suspension after failing a recreational drugs test, but this story is bigger as well because there's a saliva test offshoot to it.
Yeah, there are two aspects to this story. The first concerns the jockey Philip Prince. He tested positive for a metabolite of cocaine in November, last November. That was at Wolverhampton. Was 56 times, I think, over the threshold limit. Now, in his own case, he is currently in rehab. He's in the latter stages of rehab, and I think that his quotes via Paul Struthers and the Professional Jockeys Association earlier this week were very heartening. He apologised. There was no issue that the blame lay anywhere but with himself. He said that having been through some extremely dark times, he now felt that he was a happier person, that the rehab was working, and he looked forward to returning to racing.
That's great news.
Which is great news, and the whole of the racing community will wish him nothing but good with that.
Absolutely.
As you say, on the same afternoon, the British Horse Racing Authority announced that there would be saliva race day tests, not dissimilar to what happens with breathalyzers on racetracks. When you get there, you take a saliva test, and an official says, something is showing up, you can't ride. The really encouraging thing, I think, with this is that it's a joint venture between the British Horse Racing Authority and the Professional Jockeys Association. I think that when I first came into racing,
they were at each other's throats.
They were at each other's throats, but
on occasions.
We know why cocaine is prevalent in horse racing, as it is in, say, the fashion industry. It's because
society as a whole,
and in society, but when you need to keep your weight down, you're going to steer towards that line of recreational drug rather than drinking alcohol. And I'm really glad that the situation has changed from when I got into the sport professionally, that there is a greater understanding on the part of the regulator, and they're working with the PJA.
And collaboration has to lead to strength, you'd have thought.
Yeah, absolutely right.
Right, next on our list is weighing room. Now, this is the story that Irish jockeys will be coming to the Cheltenham Festival, but will be changing separately from British jockeys.
Yeah, it's a plan that is, I think, still under discussion, or at least it was on Thursday. I don't know if it's been confirmed yet, but that's
maybe not officially, but I think it's generally understood this is going to happen.
I believe that the Irish-based jockeys will use the home weighing room, as it were, when you're in front of the scales at Cheltenham. The door is off to the left, where the jockey's changing, the male jockey's changing room. I think that they will use that one, and the British-based jockeys will use another room. Now, obviously, this is a belt and braces protocol, isn't it, for COVID-19? It reflects, I think, the greater weight of Irish participation at the Cheltenham Festival than at the festivals that we've had since racing restarted from the coronavirus pandemic, or the coronavirus blackout
since
on June
June
1st. Yeah. So we've gone through, Royal Ascot, York, etc.
But it's not on that kind of. They're on a different scale.
It's on a completely different scale, and so. It's something I spoke to a couple of jockeys on Thursday, and they were happy to give the move their backing, and why shouldn't they? We're told that the final touches are being put to the roadmap. Are they today?
Yeah, and it'll be announced either tonight or tomorrow.
Yeah, with
from the Prime Minister.
How the next step of getting out of COVID-19.
This is not going to be letting crowds into Cheltenham, though. That would be a major surprise if that somehow came out of the roadmap.
I don't think anybody expects that. But it's just it's the latest. I think, as I say, it's a belt and braces measure. It recognises Irish participation, or the scale of it at the festival. But do be careful weighing in, lads.
Well, yeah.
Don't go through one door.
I think there'll be officials to go left, go right, wherever, go to the right place.
Let's make the signage right, for goodness sake.
But I was really sad to read the news this week, a statement that came through the PR guru Bill Esdale, that Davy Russell, who has ridden winners at every Cheltenham Festival bar one, I think, for about 15 years, and is absolutely part of the fabric of the festival, is a non-runner this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, who would forget that festival of, was it can't remember when it was, Lord Windermere, when Davy Russell rode those winners on the final day, including for Michael O'Leary, who'd replaced him as his retained jockey. Davy was on the programme on Luck on Sunday last week. He broke, I'm reading this, he broke his neck in 2 places. That was in the Munster National last October. Of course, it's been a long and tortuous road back to the Cheltenham Festival of 2021. At the end of that road, of course, was the glittering prize of riding Envoy Allen in the Marsh Novices Chase, who's obviously unbeaten and is a dual festival winner for Davy Russell.
But the doctor said, however good Envoy Allen is, I'm afraid you're not going to be ready.
No, and that's that. And more throwing it forward, he said that it was going to be very tight to make it for Aintree, which is, I think, it starts 26.
Is it the 8th of April it starts?
Yeah, it starts the 8th of April. So there may or may not be the carrot of Tiger Roll at the end of that. We'll have to see. Eddie O'Leary said we will make our plans apparent at the next forfeit stage for the Grand National, when I asked him this week whether Tiger Roll
What's your reading of it? Obviously, Davy, it's a bit touch and go to make it to Aintree, Davy Russell, but Tiger Roll, what's your reading of the situation?
I think if Tiger Roll is, if he leaves behind that run at Cheltenham at the end of last year on the cross-country course, I think it'll be an extremely difficult temptation to resist. Why wouldn't you run him? By general consensus, Martin Greenwood has given the horse a fair weight, and I think it'd be very hard not to run.
So that's Davy Russell -- Tiger Roll -- Aintree -- Digginstown House Stud as well. This is Champ and Altior. It's Super Sunday. Super Saturday +8 at Newbury. The weather intervened the other day, but we have got, for a Sunday afternoon, we have got probably the best Sunday card that for jumping that we can remember for a long time.
Yeah, it's going to be really informative. Paul Nicholls has got the favourites for the Game Spirit Chase in Green Teen and for the Denman Chase in Clan des Obeaux. But in many ways, the two talking points of, well, one horse that isn't there, Altior, of course, who has won, 2 Queen Mother Champion Chases, 4 times at the Cheltenham Festival. This was part B of Nicky Henderson's announcement on Wednesday, that whilst Champ would go for the Game Spirit Chase because Altior will go straight to the festival. This is because Super Saturday was moved by 8 days. It's deemed that that's a bit close for Altior. He's run this year, unlike Champ, and that's why Nicky Henderson's.
So what are you predicting for this afternoon? Champ to win, Champ to show off his credentials. Green Teen is the one to beat, says Nicholls.
I've tipped Green Teen in the Daily Mirror, I think, and the Sunday Mirror. I think that as Nicky Henderson said, he said, I'll only tell you afterwards whether I'm happy or not. The horse could win. He could finish 5th, but
run fine.
If he's outpaced at one point and then stays on into 5th, beaten, say, 4 or 5 lengths, he's going to be absolutely cock-a-hoot with that, isn't he? Because you think, well, there's another mile, 2.5 furlongs to go at Cheltenham. Why wouldn't I be happy?
And just talking of horses today, we've only got 10 seconds to answer it. Big day for Lost in Translation as well, isn't it? Indeed,
yes. Robbie Power rides him. Obviously, he broke a blood vessel when he was most disappointing in the King George at Kempston over Christmas. So we'll see how he gets on.
And our last issue is Jockeys Championship. Brian Hughes, the reigning champion, 103 winners so far this season. Harry Skelton, who's had plenty of winners of late, 94. Harry Cobden, 89. What's your reading? Skelton is really going strong, isn't
yes, he is.
Or they are going strong.
It's actually, for a story that normally sends me to sleep, Jockeys Championships, this is actually a really interesting one, isn't it? Because Harry Skelton, with his brother Dan, they've knocked in the winners just since the season began, haven't they? They've upped the quality, but they haven't diminished the quantity. Again, in flying form at Ascot, again yesterday. You've got Brian Hughes, the reigning champion, as you say, is on 103, but Harry Cobden is an interesting one because he's 14 behind, but I feel that if Colin Tizard's team had maybe been in their usual midwinter form, which they haven't been this season, then Cobden would probably have ridden about 10 or so winners as a result of that. He'd be really breathing down Brian Hughes' neck. So it'll be interesting to see if those tentative green shoots that the Tizard stable have had...
And they are still tentative, I think, aren't they?
Yes, they are, yeah. I think they've had 3 winners since... 3 winners this year, 3 winners in February. They had a dry January, didn't they? Yeah. And so...
Not the sort of dry January they wanted.
No. Absolutely. And so it'll be interesting to see how that stable form picks up. Harry Cobden's in that almost unique position, isn't he? He plays for Liverpool and he plays for Everton, in that he's stable jockey for Paul Nicholls, but he also rides for the Tizard team. So that's, as I say, normally I would want nothing to do with a jockey's title.
But you're quite enjoying it.
But I think this one is really engaging.
Excellent. So that is the Jockeys Championship, and those were this week's talking points.